Hey, hello everyone. I'm gonna talk about let's say some code that would help and assist you while you are doing the assignment. I will discuss three things. This video I'm planning to have three parts. The first part is how to handle two buttons in the same input file. Like let's say that I have a form and inside this form I have two buttons. How do I know which button was clicked is the first thing. And the second part is gonna be like how to read integer after like I added a data there and how to check if this is valid integer or not valid integer. And the last thing that I want to talk about, like how to create a link, an href link. This is part three. Now let's create a project. Again, similar. I'm gonna just go with web application 2 right now because I don't need to save this here. I just want to go next, and finish. Okay, remember that I have index.html. Just to click on this for the first time, and here we go. We got this, and make sure that you are getting the name of the application correctly because now we have two applications, one called Week03 demo and web application 2. Now I don't need this. I need to delete it, and I'm going to create a dynamic HTML as my welcome file, and this is should go to here, create JSP. And now what do I need to name it? I'm going to name it this as first, like first JSP file. Okay. Now say finish. And this is hello world. Okay, hello world from first.jsp. Now, as you can see that this is a problem. How can I run this word? Like how can I run this file? Because as you know that we need a servlet to render this for me. Therefore, I would go here and say servlet. I'm gonna name it as okay, let's go with render servlet. And this is a name. And now the path, like name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it home and click on this. Make sure that always click on this and say finish. Now remember, this is an auto-generated code. There is a plus sign. Make sure that you click on this and remove everything that we don't need. We just need the get and the post. I'm gonna delete the comments. Another way, like actually there is a way for customization. I will post a video or maybe I talk about that on the lab, how to customize our code, like not having this auto-generated every time. And remember that we don't need this as well because we have removed this method and we have removed this method as well. Okay, right now here on the inside do get, what I need to do is actually remember that I want to go to another page, get servlet context, get request dispatcher. And here I have a path. Now my file is inside web information. Now what is the name? It's called first.jsp. And remember to do the forward thing, forward. And here we go. Now we can break this and have two lines. Save it. Now, is that all? No, it's not. We need to go to web.xml, double click, go to, like, remember, this is the link that I have. And I want to tell web.xml, like, if you need to render the first.jsp, send a request for home. Like, go to page and say here home and save it and click on the green button. And we got an error that was expected. Okay, now what I did a mistake here. It's first.jsp. Oh, I didn't save web. Oh my god. Okay, just Control S. Yeah, Control S to save everything and then click on this. Here we go. Now we got the hello world from first.jsp. Right now, I just want to say that let's say that we have an input inside it. Like let's say that I have an input form. I'm sorry. Now inside this form, I have two buttons. I don't want to add inputs or something. Like I just have two buttons. Like this is my first input. Gonna be type. This is gonna be submit. And now, okay, let me close this right now. Okay, now I'm gonna give a name for this. I'm gonna name it btn, and I'm gonna give this as a value as, for example, 1. Okay. Now here, this is the first one. Let's add another input. And this is gonna be the same name but different value. Let's say this is 2. Okay. Now the form should have a method and action. I'm gonna with method called post and action called get, action called home. I'm sorry, I'm sending my action to home, and home is rendered by this. I will do my code here. Let's save it now. Let's make sure that we have everything there. Here we go. I have two buttons, 1 and 2. But now how can I know which button that I was clicking on? Because they have both names, and that means the value actually gonna like tell me which one that I was clicked on. Like I can go here and let's say that string, and here I'm gonna say btn, which is equal to request dot get parameter. And now what's the name of the parameter that I'm looking for? If we go back here, you would see that I'm looking for something called btn. Yeah. Now btn is either going to be 1 or 2, because here it's either 1 or 2, because I have two buttons have the same name but different value. Now here what I could say actually, I could go back to this first to JSP and set attribute like send a message to say like which button was clicked. Now how to go back to that message, like how to go back to that JSP, we just do this code here. Now before we go back, I need to set data, like a message, request.set attribute. Now I'm gonna call it message. And what's the message that I will send? I will send something like for example, the name of the button that I click. For example, you clicked on, and then concatenate this with the value that we have read from here. Okay, let's btn. Let's save it. And remember that if you need to display this message on the first JSP, you can go here and say h1, for example. And here you say, for example, you sent, and then I can display the message. Now save it. Let's run. Here we go. Now you sent and is empty because I haven't sent anything. Now let's click on 1. You clicked on 1. 2. You clicked on 2. Again 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. I hope it's clear right now. And you can actually have an if statement. Like you can have an if statement here. And you can say, okay, like if btn is equal or dot equals 1, else, like you can do your code here if your btn is equal to 1, else if, for example, btn, like let's say you have more than one buttons, okay? Like btn equals this time 2, like you can do your code if this was 2. Like you can actually even print this here, like you can just this out, this, say this is like when is it clicked, and let's say here, oh wait, say, for example here, 2 is it clicked. Okay, now let's save everything and let's run. Now again, if I click on 1, now if we go to output and then Apache Tomcat and scroll down here, you can see 1 is a click. Now let's click on 2. As you can see, now we can see 2 is clicked. It depends, like I'm just having an if statement, and based on the data like you clicked on, I'm gonna do my logic here. Okay. And now this is the idea behind how to use 2 buttons inside the form. Or we can use 3 buttons, 4 buttons, 5 buttons, doesn't matter. It's gonna be the same idea. Okay. Now let's say that removing everything here that we have, and let's say that I have, okay, I'm gonna just need one of them. I just need one button right now, and I will need to send integer. Now this is part 2 of the video. Let's say that I need to send an input, and there's gonna be time, and this type is text, and the name of this is, let's say, n1. Okay, now let's save everything here. I remember that I need to read this integer inside render servlet. I'm gonna stay like on this thing, but let me just remove this here right now. Like instead of reading this, I'm gonna say, okay, let's say string number equal. This data will come from request.get parameter. And now what's the name of the parameter that I want to read? Remember that I want to read n1. Okay, I need to read the text field that called n1. And now here, I will say, for example, like let's say that I'm going to send this number back to that page. Like, for example, you send, you send number equal, and then here I will add the number. Okay, let's save it and let's run it. And here, for example, if I enter 55 and see, you send number 55. Let's say I enter 123, you send number 123. However, the problem that this is a string. What if I need to convert this to integer? It's very simple. Just say integer x, and then say here, for example, integer dot parse int. Oh, integer dot parse int. And now here we're gonna pass the string. Okay. And by the way, like if instead of sending a string, you can send anything that you want. Okay. Now let's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, we can remove everything here. And I just sent an integer because I told you like set attribute can take object and take integer, string, whatever you need. Okay. Just save it and just click here and say that 55 and say submit. Here we go. Now I'm sending 55. Now let's say that I send nothing here. Say submit. Oh my God, the server actually have a very big error. Now, what's the error here? The error is that I'm sending an empty string. Okay, that means I need to solve the problem. I need to tell the user that you are sending an empty string and therefore please like fix this. Therefore here, I'm gonna say, okay, so if the number equal null, or like this is always gonna be the same thing. Anytime that I want to check this, dot equals, and here. Okay, now here, that means I'm sending, like, let's say the message that I will send is gonna be this. Like, I'm gonna tell him that, for example, you send invalid data. Else, that means like we are doing good actually. Therefore, here I can go to this part inside it here. And remember that I need to take this. Okay, now as you can see, now you can read this as a successful message or failure message. Like the if part is the successful, like this is the failure message. Like if we have invalid data, I'm gonna say, oh, you are sent invalid data or empty data, for example, empty data. You are sent empty data, therefore like, and this, at the end of the day, like I will go to this page, but the main difference is the message. Like, am I going to display the number or I'm gonna say you are entering empty data? Okay, this is the main difference. Now let's save it. Go back there. And here I'm going to enter 55, submit, it works. Now let's say submit. Now you send empty data. Okay, now the last thing that I want to talk about here is let's say that I enter here 1, and 1 is a number, yeah? But remember, this is being like in text format, not in a number format. When I say submit, it actually broke. Actually, if you can see here, we can pass this because now it's not empty. Remember that we entered the word 1, but 1 couldn't be converted to integer. Okay, therefore here I should actually place this inside a try and catch. Okay, now how can I do this? I should say try, because if you have any problem, now try to do what? We're gonna say try to do this, like try to convert this into integer. Now, if we're able to do that, that means this is the message, and the message could be like everything is valid. Now, what if it doesn't work? That means here gonna have an exception. Okay, and this exception, what you should do of like if let's say I entered a word called like let's say 1, something like this, 1. Okay, as I said, like here we're gonna have an error, but it's gonna be catched by the exception here. And here I will actually send you a message, and this message will be that, for example, couldn't convert to integer. Like, because I was able, yes, you are not sending an empty data, you are sending a data, but this data couldn't be converted to integer. I'm catching it this here, and I'm sending you this message. Let's save it, and let's run it. Here we go. Now let's enter 55, it works. Let's enter empty data. You send empty data, let's say now 1, and say submit. Couldn't convert to integer. Now we covered the 3 cases for reading an integer, which you need for the assignment. However, you will have 2 inputs, not 1 input, but you could do the same logic. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is to have a link. This link would take us to another page. Now, how could we do that? Let's say that I have another page here called second.jsp. I'm going to call this as second. Okay. And yeah, let's say finish. Hello world from second.jsp. Now, what I want to do is simply to have a link in this page, which is first.jsp. I'm going to remove the form. I don't need the form anymore. And here, what I want to do is I want to have an href. This href actually is going to go to this page. Now we will talk about like what should like the path should be. And then here, let me just add this here and say and click here or anything that you want to add. Now the problem, remember that anytime that I need to render a JSP, I should go to a servlet. Now let's create a servlet that would actually render this for us. We can actually go here and say new, then servlet. And now name it whatever comes to your mind. I'm going to save this as second servlet. Click next. Click on this. Make sure that you click on this. Now, what is the path? I'm going to name it as, it's named like a silly name, like just say SAIT. Yeah. Now you can name it second page. You can render add. You can name it anything. Okay. I'm going to name it SAIT. And then click finish. Now, the first thing, if you go to web.xml, you can see that SAIT is now linked with what? Is linked with the second servlet. Where the second servlet is? It's here. Okay, as you can see, like this is how we link this in web.xml. Now, this is second servlet. Again, we have a lot of auto-generated code. Let's delete it. We just need the do get and the do post. Okay, let's delete this. I need to delete everything here. Okay. Okay, let's delete this and delete this. Okay, now what I want to do, let me save this. Let's go to first.jsp. Here, what is my href? Like, what is the path that I should go for? And the path that I should go for, let's go see that it's called SAIT. Like, I want to say here, if I click on this link, go to SAIT. And go to SAIT, which is actually going to be a GET request. There's going to be a GET request to here, like SAIT will send a GET request to second servlet. And remember that now we are here. Okay, like we will be here if we click on the link. Now, because we are here, remember that we can move it from a servlet to JSP very easy. We just say get servlet context dot get request dispatcher. Now, what is the path? Going to be web information. The name of the file is called second.jsp, and then forward, and can I break this down? And that's everything. Now let's save it. Let's save first.jsp, make sure that we saved it, and let's run it. Now, as you can see, click here. I am in the second.jsp. I hope that it's clear right now. And this is, I think, very much everything that you need for your assignment. And Friday, it's going to be like a dedicated lecture or dedicated time actually to help you in the assignment or the week lab one. I'm sorry. Okay. See ya tomorrow.